Hey, everybody, we are back, and it is podcast number 13. I'm not a superstitious person, but do you have any worries about today at all,
Not,
bud?
not at all. I don't believe in any of that garbage.
Perfect. Well, let's go. I'm sure nothing can possibly go
Oh,
wrong.
God.
This isn't another fishing show. This is another fishing show.
Here we are. It is podcast number 13. Me and my buddy Gregory. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's been kind of a gloomy week here, and I've got sick kids, so we're actually in the middle of the afternoon, as you can see over my shoulder. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, it's kind of a bright room today. Usually I like to do this in the dark, but I have a sick kid at home, so instead of being at work, I'm at home with my 5-year-old Phoebe, and at any moment, if Netflix fails to entertain her, she could walk in. So I would like to put out that disclaimer before we get into today's show.
Well, we're about being real. You know what I mean? We're super
Absolutely.
real.
And by real, we mean not very professional.
I like the term relatable.
Whatever works. So you just got back from a Wild West bass fishing tour hosting.
First of all, you need to
situation.
understand the name of my client. I think it's very critical that you know the correct terminology here. Terminology, whatever. Wild West Bass Trail, Pete.
Wild West Bass Trail.
Wild West Bass Trail.
All right, like
It's-
Oregon Trail.
That's right. So Wild West Bass Trail. I was just in California, in Oakley, California. What was that?
My bad.
Okay. Well, see how professional we are. We're super professional. I'm hearing bebop. Like, what is that?
It's my phone vibrating.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. One thing that I'm using headphones, Pete, for
Yep.
this podcast, and one thing I've noticed that I'm plugged right into into my iPhone, and one thing I notice immediately that I can't hear my voice, and so everything's muffled. I hear you perfectly, but I have to open up this ear just a little bit on my left earphone here.
Right.
Okay, that might be a little bit. It was really strange. So listen, we're working out the kinks of this.
It is. We've been trying multiple different ways, and again, we're doing another remote podcast, meaning we're not in the same room, and we're still trying to perfect the art of that. But anyway, you said in where, California?
Yeah, so
where
I was
now?
in Oakley, California. So Oakley, California is in Northern California. It's kind of the Bay Area, but it's northeast of the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, where you start getting into the Delta, what's known as the California Delta. The Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers come in and they make this. I'm telling you, dude, to me, it's one of the best bass fisheries in the world. There's over 1,100 miles of shoreline, and every single inch of this shoreline looks bassy. Pete, it's crazy. So
And I looked at it on a map. Is that a natural reservoir?
it's not a reservoir; it's a delta. So
It just widens out like that, huh?
The Sacramento, the river coming out of Sacramento, out of Sacramento, they all meet in this region and make this vast delta, a
That's
river delta.
Perfect.
So it's tidal, and it's honestly there's aquatic vegetation. There's what the West Coast anglers call tules. Tules are like bulrushes. There's marinas, there's docks, there's old shipwrecks,
But it's wide enough where it feels like a lake, right?
There's areas of it, yeah, that are wide, but then there's areas where it's just narrow canals.
Yeah, because from a satellite image, it looked kind of like a lake. It's such a cool mix. And this is a largemouth fishery, right?
Largemouth fishery, correct. Just
And does
largemouth.
this feed into San Francisco Bay at some point, or does it just go right to the
Yeah.
ocean?
It goes into the San Francisco Bay first and then eventually gets to the ocean. In fact, there's anglers complaining now. So at the Delta, like years ago, you could just count on numerous fish over 10 pounds this is what I was hearing. You know, numerous fish over 10 pounds, and you'd get fish in the teens at these tournaments.
Right.
And
and from our part of the neck of the woods, that's crazy to even think about.
crazy to think about. But so anglers were used to seeing, you know, big fish brought to the scales. You know, 12s, 13s, you know, 14s for these tournaments, just monsters.
Jeez.
Well, that's not happening as much anymore. This last weigh-in, I think we had 2 10-pounders weighed in, which is awesome to see.
That's
You
crazy,
know,
though.
because a 10-pounder is that mark in bass fishing. That's a fish of a lifetime in bass fishing.
Yeah,
right?
the fish of Minnesota angler is still 2 pounds away from catching.
Right. So, what the anglers are blaming the decline, and I would say personally, it's a modest decline in the fishing. You know, it's still fantastic fishing in the Delta, but it's not producing the kind of monsters that it used to on a regular basis. And so what anglers are thinking, or what they're saying, is that it's because sea lions have moved in. So the sea lions are coming up there and kind of terrorizing the bass, especially this time of year when they're spawning, you know?
Largemouth bass,
Yeah.
huh? And do sea lions even normally hang out in fresh water?
It's news to me, you know, but it's fresh water. It's not brackish. At this area where we were, it was fresh water.
It just seems like you'd never find a sea lion where a largemouth bass would be hanging out. Like one would be too warm and
right,
you know,
exactly.
the other would be too salty. It's just an odd combination.
But a sea lion, you know, isn't like, well, there's some fish that can live in fresh water and salt water, like a striped bass, but
Right.
a sea lion is a mammal, obviously, and those restrictions don't matter, you know, to a sea lion, whether it's fresh or salt, you know.
They don't?
No, not to a sea lion. I mean, they're like, you ever seen a sea lion up close, dude? It's like it's a dog, basically. It's
It is a
water
dog. And it always blows me away that they even, obviously they do, but how they even would have the ability to swim at and catch a fish. Like I've seen them do it with penguins,
Yeah.
you know, but like even, you don't have any arms to work with. You're basically just, you know, pointing your nose in the direction of a bass or whatever fish you're trying to catch and being able to pick that thing out of the water. And there's no way they can be sneaky. I mean, they're huge.
I
you
know. I think about that too. I would love to see them hunt. I'd love to see them take down, you know, a bass, see how it goes down.
Yeah, because even if you know, maybe they can squeeze them into shore when they're spawning or something, you know, or it's just bizarre. Maybe they hunt in teams, you know.
Right.
But I've seen them hunt penguins where they'll, you know, the penguins will have like a hole in the ice that's their in and out door from the ice.
Yeah.
And they can hang out them and you know, they basically on land they're immobile, but when they get in the water they're just like these, you know, lightning quick mammals.
Right.
You know, that, you know, it's amazing they can even catch a penguin. But
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by it. I didn't see any sea lions while I was there, but I saw otters, which
Right.
otters to me are some of the coolest creatures. They're so,
Without a doubt.
you know, they seem to be so, I don't know, playful and just cool animals. But I didn't see any sea lions.
have they verified that's affecting the bass population, or are they taking actions to sort of control where the sea lions are allowed to go?
They're not, to my knowledge, and what I heard from the anglers is that the DNR in California, they are not doing anything about it. And I think they have a problem in Oregon with the sea lions and the salmon run. And so supposedly in Oregon, they're killing them. They're killing the sea lions. In California, that's going to be a much tougher case to try to sell to the to the
Right.
population.
I can't imagine being the DNR in California. I mean, talk about a rainbow of issues over there.
Right.
But those have to be coming through the bay, right? There's no other access to that.
Correct. They're coming through
That's
the San
crazy.
Francisco Bay. Yeah. So that's
And
a pretty neat.
are largemouth native out there?
I don't believe so. I could be.
Yeah,
I could be wrong about that. I do not believe they're native. So I know.
It seems like on that.
Yeah.
It seems like on that side of the mountains, out west, like bass just aren't native out there. At least largemouth aren't, but I don't know for sure.
Right. I don't believe they are native. I'm almost positive bass aren't native maybe even past the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
And
So essentially, these lines are helping eradicate an invasive
there
species.
you go. We're going right back to our last podcast, you know. And here's the thing. I think you probably know where I come down on this. I believe human beings, if we're going to use these terms, invasive species, I believe human beings could be considered invasive species.
Of the worst order.
Yeah, and you know, here's the reality. Yeah, largemouth bass aren't native. You know, it's all. I mean, ringneck or pheasants aren't native either. They're from China, but there's certain invasives that people just adore and love. You know.
Yeah, we're fine with them.
But my point, if I can get to it, is
we have time.
Is I don't believe that. I think that humans, we got to do a better job of looking at ourselves, looking in the mirror, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because here I am, okay, I'm hearing that guys are ticked off about these sea lions. I understand it. But again, I believe 2 10-pounders were caught. Numbers of really nice, beautiful largemouth were brought to the scales, okay? It's not like it's not kicking out fantastic fishing, the Delta, okay?
Right.
What I think is always funny when we as humans complain about a species, you know, we don't see, like the Delta, for instance, is a perfect example of this. You know, we are absolutely, there's people everywhere, and I had to drive back to the airport the other day, you know, catch a flight back home. Dude, I got stuck in the worst traffic like maybe I've ever been stuck in. You
like
know,
LA style.
Yes, and you know, I'm like thinking, well, what's this impact? This impact isn't good. You know? Is there
any like open shoreline there that's
no? So as you get out away from San Francisco, you start getting towards the Delta. You get less people, but there's still a number of people around. My point is like we need to start. I don't know. In my opinion, there needs to be a better balance and a better understanding. Is you know what? I understand you're ticked off at the sea lions, but they're trying to make a living just like you are. You know, they're going to where the food is.
Right.
So,
and what are you going to do? And how much is
they're not. Obviously, I don't live out west. I don't know this story that well, but it doesn't appear to me like they're absolutely decimating the population. I did not see one sea lion while I was there, and I went out on the water twice.
And like, how much is enough too? I mean, you know, if you saw 12 or 13, now 10 isn't good enough. And at some point, you know, like with all those reservoirs, and I understand that's not a reservoir, but they always peak initially and then they settle into where their natural setting is. You know, well, this is how big the bass are going to be now.
Right,
and,
maybe.
And this may be a similar thing, but those sea lions are just going to sort of adjust that system. I don't know what you do to try and keep them out of there. I mean, it sounds like a nightmare of, you know, figuring out how to manage that stuff. I mean, you're close to Monterey around there, which is like the sea lion capital of the world, and they're beloved right there too.
Yeah,
know?
I mean,
it's part of the scenery.
It'd be like you're shooting a dog, a water dog.
Right. But it was to
keep me out of it, man.
But it was a cool trip out there anyway. Like,
yeah, dude.
good...
I think I texted you. I mean, there's really a part of me where it almost feels like a dream that I'm doing this. Like, not like I have a dream. I mean, like it's like I've fallen asleep and I'm dreaming. Like this last like these last few months, it's been a whirlwind. You know, I've traveled the last few months, maybe more than I've ever traveled. You know, I don't know that for sure, but it's kind of seems like it. And you know, I've emceed tournaments before. I emceed a couple BASS tournaments back in the early 2000s. What was it? Mid 2000s, I guess it was. And so it's been a while since I've been in front of people, and you have to have this this energy level. You know, I'm basically, you know, the Wild West Bass Trail has hired me to, I mean, I'm the representative of their organization, you know, and so when I'm on stage, and listen, I absolutely love competitive bass fishing. It's been in my blood for a long time, and it actually started in California. So
And I'm not sure people are aware because they know you as a videographer. This gig is in front of the camera, not behind it, for the most part, I guess.
yeah,
Because they asked you to do some camera work. I didn't know if that actually happened. Or
yeah.
not.
So I actually did a half day of filming on the championship day, on the last day, which was cool. It was cool to be in the boat and see how these guys on the West Coast operate. A lot of these guys are sight fishing for bedding fish right now.
Wow.
And seeing big fish, it's something when you see a big, just big female cruising by, and these guys are trying to catch her. We can't do that in Minnesota.
I've never like sight fished for largemouth ever.
Yeah, it's the guys that are good at it. It's really, you've got to have a ton of patience. I'm not good at it, like it's some of these guys will stay 3 hours on a fish.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I've actually edited a video where one of the anglers, now this is a few years back, it was actually on Table Rock Lake. One of the anglers, I believe, he spent 3 hours on one fish.
Oh my God.
And it was worth it though. It was like I want to say it was like a 4 or 5 pounder, and he did really well in the tournament. So that's how these guys fish is a lot of times when they're pre-fishing, when they're practicing for a tournament, they will be they'll just be looking for spawning fish, and they'll mark them on their waypoint, on their graph.
But when they spend 3 hours on a fish, are they mostly not casting, wait for the fish to get in the right position because they're trying not to spook them and they're trying to catch it?
Yeah,
somehow?
there's a lot of that goes on. There's a lot of that, like reading the fish's attitude, how the fish is setting up on the bed,
And letting it sort of reboot before you make another cast.
Right. And there's all kinds of different ways to. Sometimes they'll be aggressive right off, and then sometimes you'll have to do something with the retrieve or the bait. There's guys that will use great big tubes, like I'm talking 6-inch tubes, that just you throw it in there, maybe even bigger than that. You throw it in there near the bed, and it just ticks them off, and they'll hit it. So it's there's all kinds of. I'm terrible at it, but there's guys that are very good at it. This time of year, it's kind of like what you kind of sort of have to have in your repertoire, if you're fishing where, if you hit a tournament where the majority of the fish are spawning, if it's legal in the state, obviously there's not going to be a tournament, if there's seasons, but if you almost have to fish for spawning fish. There's some guys that just refuse to do it, for ethical reasons, and I understand.
Is that right?
I understand that. Yeah, there's one guy I actually talked to in the tournament that he was like, I don't fish for spawning fish. And
Wow.
I respect that. I understand that. I mean, when you think about it, you're pulling. Here's a female, or excuse me, a male. The males are the ones that guard the bed the most. The female hangs around for a little bit after she lays the eggs, but then she kind of takes off, and it's mostly the male's responsibility.
I respect it, but it's still weird to handicap yourself. It's almost like entering a golf tournament and refusing to use a driver because you can hit it too far.
I would. There are fantastic bass fisheries where there's no seasons, and so I don't know how much of a detriment that it is.
And the fear is if you pull them off the bed, and I've heard this mentioned up here before, they're afraid they won't go back.
Well, they won't. These bass are taken so far away. Every tournament takes the.
Oh, because you guys haul them into the stage.
Every weigh-in bass style tournament, you're taking that bass way away from the bed.
But the Major League Fishing, they do it all right there.
Major League Fishing is the fish are weighed in the boat and then released.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool way. That's almost impossible in those big tourneys, I suppose, though.
No, it's the Major League Fishing now has 80 boat fields where they're doing it.
Whoa!
So it's just a much more, as far as logistically, it's a much bigger ball of wax.
So why do they prefer that? Like, why does the Wild West Bass Trail?
Most tournament organizations, first of all, don't. I mean, what Major League Fishing has is a tremendous infrastructure that they've built up. Very expensive to do what they're doing, and so the majority of tournament trails out there are just not set up to handle that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
You got to first of all you've got to hire all of those marshals or officials, boat officials.
right, right.
So that's 80 boat officials that then have to be trained on the Major League Fishing rules. Do you understand?
yeah.
And so, and then they need to know all the rules because they are the official of the event.
So every single boat in Major League Fishing has a judge in it. Just because there's a cameraman there with a fisherman, they still need that third person in every boat.
In Major League Fishing, it's an angler and an official in the boat.
And a cameraman, essentially.
Well,
right?
not in these bigger events now.
So leaderboard.
We still have about 10 camera guys that go
Wow.
out on the water.
Yeah, I
So
see.
you kind of, what you're doing is you're kind of following the top 10 guys. What's great about it is you know where everybody is, how everybody's
Right.
doing. So, and we know where they are on the lake. So we have all that information as well. So if someone's making a move, we can jump out of one angler's boat and go find an angler making a move. So
Well, that makes total sense to me how that could seriously affect a spawning bass. And obviously, you're pulling the big ones away and bringing them back. And I'm assuming there's an upside to that, and it's a more traditional way to do a bass tournament, but it kind of makes it a spectacle and a bit of a spectator sport because you have a stage.
for a weigh-in.
Yeah, for a
It's
weigh-in.
Yeah, it's the traditional way to do a tournament.
Right.
And what's fun about it is that you have a crowd there, and then at the last day, it's only the top 10 anglers on the Wild West Bass Trail, right? So it's a 3-day event. We cut to the top 10 on the second day. So after the second day, it's only the top 10 anglers that fish for the final day. So
Right.
the top 10 anglers on the pro side and the top 10 anglers on the amateur side. So the weigh-in, it's fun. So at the weigh-in, we weigh the 10th place person first,
Yeah.
and they'll go 9th and 8th, and we let them know what they have to win, what weight they need to take the lead.
And nobody knows what anybody else has at that point. Everything's kind of
We try to tell the anglers to keep everything on the down. Hush, hush. Don't tell. Don't let don't
Right.
let your competitors know what you have because we
It's
want
hard to
that
do, though.
suspense. But
yeah. A lot of them
it's-
are buddies.
yeah, but back to just the idea of doing this, doing the Wild West Bass Trail. You have to. A big part of my work is behind the camera. It's filming and editing. I've always enjoyed doing on-camera work as well. You have to it's really about I have to totally switch gears, dude. I have to that's the best way to put it. I have to get a totally different mindset, and they're paying me to be entertaining,
Yeah.
and have energy. So
And you had done it before, but it's been a while.
I've done it before, but it's been a while. But I feel like I'm now, this last event, I feel like my energy level's there, and it's fun getting to know these anglers and interacting with them. I've had some, nice comments, and even there's been a few moments where, like this last event, some anglers got emotional on stage,
Right?
and I'm like, and it's kind of like okay, you just have to have your stuff together because you got the people in the crowd watching you. People, we do it live as well, so there's a live stream, and this one angler came up and he did this. Did very well in the tournament, and he had talked about how he had lost his dad to cancer,
Ugh.
and that until this tournament he had not wanted to fish. And I had lost just recently my aunt to cancer, and
In California.
In California. And so, those moments like that where they're up there and they're back on the water and they're emotional and then it's those, I don't know, it was a great experience, I guess, is the best way for me to explain.
That's cool.
And have those moments. And then to be up there, and it's not something that I have to fake as far as my enthusiasm for bass fishing, So, but what you have to do, I'm not, my enthusiasm is real, but you have to bring it up a couple notches as far as just your energy level.
Yeah.
And so that can, especially like after this long winter, Pete, it's kind of funny. Like I've, like a few of the tournaments, it was hot. And I was like, I am not acclimated to this yet, And I'm like, I was a little worried, dude. There was a few times where I was like, oh my, there was one term where I was emceeing, I forgot to have lunch. And I started
woozy.
Oh, dude. And I started to have like a mini panic attack. And it dawned on me, I was like, I forgot to have lunch. And I started feeling like I could like faint up here.
Yeah.
And then there was a few times where I'm like, I've got to, I would get lost. And like someone's talking and they're talking, I'm like, I would get lost in like I wasn't paying as much of attention as I needed to because I had like low blood sugar. And I'm like,
Jeez.
this cannot happen anymore, dude. I'm like,
yeah, I mean,
I can,
it's something you have to practice at, and you kind of take breaks from it too, so it makes it a little trickier. But that's kind of it's a cool gig. It sounds like something.
But
that's,
the
destinations are good too. That helps.
We're going to these beautiful destinations. I contend that the West Coast has the best bass fisheries on the planet, and I also contend that the West Coast has the best bass fishermen on the planet. Because the West Coast, you have incredibly varied fisheries. You've got like the Delta and Clear Lake, which are shallow water fisheries full of giant bass. But then you have these deep, really deep, clear reservoirs where it takes a whole different kind of style to catch those fish. Different presentations. And West Coast anglers know how to handle that. That's why, if you look at on the national level, they in my opinion, they're the best anglers.
And if we're Midwestern folks wanting to see that, do you know where or how we could pull that off?
You mean as far as online?
Or anywhere? Yeah, like
go
how
to
do we see?
Go to wildwestbasstrail.com.
And they'll light you up somehow, huh?
Yeah, you can see their tournament schedule. There'll be videos there. If you want to register for a tournament, I know there's some snowbirds. There's actually some people from Minnesota fishing the Lake Havasu event that I did in Arizona.
Don't you know?
Yeah. So
yeah, they're desperate.
Actually, a guy from right up the road from me in Maple Grove was fishing it.
That's great.
So, and then also check out their YouTube channel, Wild West Bass Trail, Wild West Bass Trail on YouTube.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I gotta see you in action too, because
yeah, it
might raise my respect level for you.
Yes, you need that. I think I need it. You need it.
It's not likely. But.
I would recommend for the last weigh-in, the best. I think it's probably the best weigh-in I've done so far. Check out the Championship Sunday, Day 3, that I just did on Clear Lake.
All right.
Or excuse me, California Delta.
California Delta, right. So getting back to our own world, we actually managed to get together last Wednesday, which is about a week ago now, and actually took an attempt at making a fishing video, which is technically what we're trying to do with our lives. And we had some issues, didn't we?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and I think one of the important things that comes of these podcasts is that it's almost like maybe a therapy session, couples counseling for us. I've thought about this a little bit, and I think it's good, and because honest to God, I hate like ranking like friends and stuff, but here's something that happened. First of all, I treasure your friendship. I love you. You're my best friend.
Oh no, where's this
You're
going?
my best male friend.
There
My
you
best
go.
female friend is my wife.
Nice save.
Okay. But I was thinking about this last night. I've got like 3 best friends, you know, and I put to me that's a very exclusive group.
Indeed, indeed.
But I treasure our friendship, and I think about how many years that we've just known each other, you know, and we've just.
We haven't really not known each other.
We've never not. Like, I don't ever remember not knowing you, really.
Right. It's a weird thing.
So what also comes with that, though, is the fact that you really know me, and I really know you.
Right.
And sometimes that, because of that, things can really just blow the hell up. I mean, it's not like crazy blowing up. Well, sometimes you'll drop an F-bomb on me, like in full, fury, like
Sure,
at Eel Pout.
Why not?
Because of me being a jerk, I completely understand. I've got issues. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have issues. When I get stressed out, and I've done it to my wife, and I'm like, I'm such a jerk, dude. I'm such a jerk. It's like what happens when I'm stressed out. I kind of lose my crap, dude.
Well, what are you referring to specifically?
Okay, so we decide last week that we're going to go down to the upper Mississippi River near Wabasha, Minnesota, to go
Right.
after pike and bass. You
Right.
actually specifically wanted to go for pike. I had in my head, I'm like, no, I'm going for bass. But whatever, we could get the same thing.
Well, I actually made a note to reference that because when I saw all of your footage, I realized you were going bass fishing. And this goes back to, which I find charming because I know you love bass fishing, but it really does go back to, because you can fish for bass all summer long, but you really are one of those walleye guys that only fishes for walleyes. You're just a bass guy that no matter where you're at, you're like, well, I bet there's a way we could catch a bass here, even if it's not our best option.
Yeah. You're on to me. Like I said, you know me.
Right.
So
I went there hoping for options, and ironically, the only fish you hooked was a pike. So
right, which I thought was a bass for sure.
right.
But that actually goes way back. There's actually a story. We don't have to get into it now. Is when we were little, I thought I had hooked a giant bass. You thought it was a pike,
That's
but
right.
it got off.
And it was never resolved.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, but anyway. So what happens is we get down there, and I've got to leave very early for a Wild West Pass Trail gig the next day. So I've only got really like 4 hours. I have a 2.5-hour drive to get down there,
Right,
down to
which-
Wabasha.
Which I kind of found out the day before. You're kind of like, listen, I've got a quick window.
Okay. So that added to your anger issues.
I didn't have any anger.
Okay, so let me get to the damn point here. So I'm driving 2.5 hours. I get close, and I get a call from Pete, and he says, all the ramps are closed down here because
Right.
of flooding. And immediately, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
And I could tell. And allow me to explain that situation, too. The Mississippi is still a fairly new fishery to me. And I learn something every year. I usually learn hard lessons on the Mississippi River because the river is so dynamic and crazy. So all the water around here that feeds into the Mississippi was low and clear. Everything had calmed down. I have an app on my phone. I probably checked it 6 times a day. I check it all day, every day, and looking at various rivers around southeastern Minnesota. But now that hard lesson has been learned, you have to pay attention onto what's going on to the entire upper watershed of the Mississippi River. You can't just be watching your neighborhood. And what happened was they got tons of rain. There was still snow melting. There was all kinds of factors. If I would have just pulled up that river levels map, I would have saw it was high as it had been all spring. It had peaked maybe a month before that, went down, and then peaked again.
Yeah.
And even at that point, I wouldn't have ruled out getting out there because we're going backwater fishing, so you're not thinking current, You're just like, well, I just got to get my boat in the water. I'm still fishing, even though generally the fishing is not as good. It was kind of our only option. But if I would have been paying attention and realized that, I would have at least made a call to, the ramps are managed by a federal place. I can't even remember, a federal something or another. I called them up. She's like, all of our ramps are closed. I'm like, what? I mean, and I pulled into the ramp. I could have easily launched a boat, but they had a chain, blocking the parking lot. And I'm like, I can get in here and drop a boat. Why would you guys, I don't even understand why it's closed. But anyway, go ahead. But it was a lack of research that bit us. That will never happen again.
And it was also, it was also just it was our inexperience with that area.
Right.
Where, when you're a river fisherman, you've got to, there's, like you mentioned, there's so many factors with levels and whatnot. So, but, I pull in, and this is where things I knew I was supposed to meet you down there at, I can't remember what time, but we were kind of getting there at the same time, but I needed a fishing license too.
Right.
But I also I wanted to get some intel, so I stopped at Shorty's Bait. Right. This is already by the time that we know everything's blown out, and we
Kellogg,
don't think in Kellogg, yeah, Shorty's Bait and Tackle in Kellogg.
It's actually,
Minnesota.
I think it's Prairie Bait and Tackle. We kept calling it Shorty, and we kept calling
everybody
Shorty.
But
he's not Shorty.
No, he's not. He's Shorty's son.
Right.
But the point is that, most people call it Shorty's.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I get there, so I already know, Pete's downstream for me a little bit, and so he's working on options, trying to figure out what to do, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to get a license. I'm going to stop here at Shorty's, and I'm also going to ask for some information if there's any ramps that are open that we can fish. So I walk into Shorty's, and what a tackle shop Shorty's is, man. And it's like, what gets me is that there's so many tackle shops like Shorty's in the upper Midwest, it seems like. It almost seems like a phenomenon that's, I mean, I guess they're everywhere in the country, but up north, they're really dusty. They're like, up north, tackle shops get, like, there's really something going on with these smaller tackle shops.
Just a lot of stuff. And this one specifically, and you see this a lot, is basically they're living at their bait shop.
Right.
They must have a little house next door, and they just have a shed with some bait in it, and it's like the bare minimum.
But
they make a living just off of live bait,
Yes, that's right. That's what's really interesting. I mean, you could do a phenomenal documentary, in my opinion, about these guys. Serious? Would you not find that interesting as hell?
Absolutely. And there's some contrast. Like there's one in Winona. A guy just opened up a new one in this beautiful old building near downtown, and it's got tall ceilings and it's spotless.
But I'm not talking. I'm talking about the run down ones.
Me too. I'm just saying there's a contrast of what's out there.
Yeah. I gotcha.
And it doesn't make much difference to guys if this is the closest one to my ramp. I'm going to where I can get bait that's easy to get to.
You gotta get bait.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get bait. But what's fascinating is that these guys, they sustain themselves on just bait because, and I want to make perfectly clear, I love these bait shops.
I do too.
I love them.
I almost love them more than, compared with the Cabela's, forget about it.
Exactly. Yes,
Right.
You walk into a dusty old bait shop that's been there forever. To me, what a wonderful story that those places can tell.
And you can't get what you need. I mean, it's more likely you're not going to walk in there and, pick up some titanium jig heads or something,
Yeah, but how many times have we talked, Pete, you go into a Cabela's and they don't have what you need?
It's the worst. I mean, I just depend solely on the internet. If I can buy local, I will. But for the most part, I make sure I have everything before I go fishing. I don't even leave the house. I just wait for it to show up in the mailbox now.
Yeah. No, I will not. I mean, I can go off on a tangent here. I'm actually going to bring this up. I'm going to write this down. We'll get to this.
You should. You should probably wrap up your tirade, though.
Okay. So basically, I get down there, I get a license, and Pete will probably say that's classic Greg, waiting to the last minute. But,
True.
Okay, I get my license, and then I'm getting information. He's like, well, there's this ramp that you should probably check. It might be, it might be a little high, but you should be able to get in there, but you're going to deal with very flooded conditions. You're just probably going to have to fish backwaters. And I'm like, fine,
Yeah, we just wanted to be in the water.
Yeah, we just wanted to be in the water, and we had some really nice warm days, and I figured the water temperatures were in the low to mid 50s. I'm like, that's awesome pre-spawn bass temperature.
Right.
So I'm like, I felt confident.
And we had fished there the previous year at the same time, and it was like lights out. The two biggest bass we've ever caught together, I believe.
Yeah, yes.
You know, like we've never caught a bass that big. Yeah, both of us caught a big one.
Beautiful largemouth.
It's on our YouTube channel, as well as this adventure is.
Right. Yeah. So, last year really opened my eyes to that fishery down there. I knew it was great, but those were beautiful, big largemouth. You know, I mean, anywhere in the country.
It shocked us.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, this is awesome. You know.
So, back to Shorty's. I'm there. I'm getting some info. He tells me I'm also filming all of this, and I walk out, and at the time, actually, while I'm talking to Shorty, I'm feeling my phone buzz. And I'm like, well, that's got to be Pete, but I got to wrap up this talk, you know. And I don't know if that ticked you off that I didn't answer, but I go outside. I see that you've pulled up to the bait shop, and I say something like, I'm about to leave. Oh, here. I didn't have any to pay for my license. I have to get cash. Of course, Shorty's doesn't take credit card or debit card. So I'm like, okay, I've got to go to the gas station down the street. I tell you this. You pull up, Pete. I'm like, I got to hurry up. I got to go down to the gas station down the street to get cash for my license. And you kind of flipped out. You were like, that was like the last straw because
first off,
you tore into me, man.
You didn't explain yourself. So what you were saying to me is, I need to go, you essentially said that. I need to go to cash because I need to get a license. But what had actually happened, and you didn't make this clear at all, is you had already went through the licensing process, but when you got to the end of it, you didn't have any way to pay for it, right?
Correct.
Which is a whole different beast, because yes, you have to go get money.
Well,
so I'm like, well,
yeah.
So my point was, well, let's get in the boat. Let's get to where we're going, and you can just get your license on your phone because you can just apply for it. You know, it takes 10 minutes on your phone, but you weren't able to do that.
Right.
Right.
Well,
so
anyway,
I had no
it was
idea.
like two rams, two Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep.
Right.
Just absolutely boom.
And I wanted to. I was trying to get my camera up on my phone because you were standing over by your car, you know, and you were just screaming at me. And we were both just like frustrated because all we wanted to do was fish. We have a short window.
Yeah.
And everything is stacked against us all of a sudden. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, how does this happen? You know?
And so I will say that another fishing show has been a positive in some ways. It's also been a negative. There's been a part of me that's like, gosh, I hope this isn't negatively affecting our friendship. You know,
It's not. I mean,
because
if we
there's times where, man, it's like we have been like.
But if we didn't have a fishing show, it would have been the exact same scenario.
Well, I guess that's true. I mean, it's not like this is anything new. I mean, we've had our blowouts.
But if we didn't have any cameras and I was just, you know, it would be the exact same scenario. The funny part is we're trying to capture it on film.
Right. So I guess for me, you know, I think I'm fine with you know, just letting people. This is honestly for me, it's a bit of a therapy. It's good to just air this stuff out, get it out in the open, you know.
Right.
And hopefully, too, the side benefit is hopefully people find it entertaining.
Right. And we didn't get that on camera, ironically, but in the end, it was just a miscommunication. And by the way, I actually gave you cash and bought your fishing license.
Yeah. So I haven't. So I owe you $26.
Yes. And by the way, if anyone's out there hasn't bought a fishing license yet, they finally in Minnesota they did have a lifetime's license out for a while you could purchase, which was based off of your age, which I thought, well, that's perfect because I hate having to deal with a license every year. You always forget. You know?
Yeah.
So the rule was, you can buy this lifetime license, but we need you to stop into a bait shop and check in every year. And I'm like, isn't that the same as buying a stupid fishing license?
Yes.
Like, what? This doesn't solve anything. So this year they finally came out with a 3-year license.
There
so
you
like
go.
I've got a license through 2020 now. And it's at least it's going to buy me 3 years, you know? Like, it makes me feel better next year. I'm not even going to think about it, you know? The year after, I'll probably have to have it in the back of my head. But can Minnesota get that figured out? Just like, if you're going to sell me a license that is good for a lifetime, what do you need me to check in for?
Makes
Just to
no
verify
sense.
that I'm alive?
Wait a minute. What you're telling me is unbelievable right now. You're telling me that you have a lifetime fishing license?
No. I didn't buy the lifetime because they were going to force me to check in every year.
That's insanity.
It's
That's the reason
stupidest
you
thing I've
get.
ever
That's the
heard.
reason you get a lifetime license. You don't
Right.
no more hassle.
And I even understood it was based off your age. It wasn't cheap. You know, it was like over $200, maybe $300 for my age. But I'm like, well, over the course of if I'm fishing for another 40 years of my life, it makes sense. But then I'm like,
You're
well,
being rather optimistic there.
yeah, well, that's what the bait the bait guy. Remember the who's the guy in Preston?
That's why we
Minnesota
have to go fishing as much as possible now.
Who's
Pete.
the
I mean,
foul-mouthed-
we're in the twilight years.
Who's the foul mouth guy in Preston? Kurt's
Yeah,
bait
Kurt,
in
yeah.
Preston. If you're ever in Preston, Minnesota, go to Kurt. Mm-hmm. And I asked him about a lifetime license. He walked out from behind his desk, walked over to me, lifted up my shirt, and admired my stomach.
This is weird.
And then he goes, "You ain't gonna make it." And then he put my shirt back down, and he basically told me not to buy a lifetime fishing license because it would have been a bad investment based off of my health situation.
Oh, see, to me, those
it
characters,
was like-
dude.
it was-
Why have we not had? We need to get them on camera.
I know he closed one, but he's still doing it at home. And by the way, that was kind of a Me Too moment for me. I'm so a little traumatized.
Listen, if you need to talk to the police, Pete, the statute of limitations probably isn't
Right.
over.
There's no way I'm turning Kurt in. But in what I'm summarizing here is the lifetime license. What's the point if you still have to go to a bait shop and verify that you're still around? It's the stupidest idea I've ever heard before.
Yeah, I agree. That is really stupid.
But you can buy a 3-year. It's just 3 times the price of a regular license, and you get 3 years to not worry about it. You
Yeah,
know?
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're good to go on that one. So anyway, we eventually did get on the water, and you can watch this on our channel. We fished for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. We essentially were bass fishing. The waters were way up. We couldn't even recognize where we were.
Well,
the year eventually we did, but
It didn't. The strange thing is, it didn't seem like that area was that different than last year.
we couldn't
where
see
fished.
any that thick cabbage that we saw in every direction wasn't there.
Dude, I think you're not remembering right. When we fished last year, which is actually it was May 2nd that we fished down there, which is like tomorrow.
Yeah.
The only thing as far as vegetation that was visible that we were fishing were those old reed stalks.
No, that's not true.
No.
We could probably look at the video, but you could see matted areas where the waves couldn't penetrate. You know what I mean?
Matted of what? Matted with what?
I don't know. It might have been the previous year's vegetation, but it was all over the place. There was island between that point and the shoreline. That was all covered with. I remember dragging spinnerbaits, and I would have to go around these giant sections of just matted grass, just that were.
That's all you throw is a spinnerbait. Why am I not surprised by that?
Yeah, well, that's what you were throwing essentially.
I was throwing a chatterbait.
Whatever.
It's a bladed jig, man.
It's
a bladed jig.
So we got one strike that day.
Yeah,
anyway.
I had a decent pike on for maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds, something like that, and then
that you declared was a bass. You're oh, this is a
I
great
thought
bass.
initially, because I'm bass centric, I realize.
Right.
But so you it's obviously not happening. You can tell it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's just so you made a great call. You're like, well, you've got to get on the road, and you're like, let's salvage this thing, and I can go trout fishing. We can make.
Right. You were going to have to leave in an hour anyway, and I'm like, if we just call it a day right now, and I know it's a total loss for you and your 5-hour drive. And I ended up being 4 hours of driving for me too by the end of the day.
Yeah. It's one of those situations though where I do feel like, well, you learn something, going down there. Well,
totally.
We know now that even with higher water, there's ramps that you can access. We can get on the water. And then also just the fact of even with that water temperature is about, what was it, 54 to 56? Was that right?
We saw like 58.
You're right. We even got into shallower water where it was like, with a river coming in, that was 58.
Yep, with some big carp back there spawning.
Yeah, so, boy, that would have told me that we should have been able to catch some bass because that's
I
a
know.
great water temperature.
It doesn't make any sense. And you hear guys, like when the river's up, whether you can get into it or not, guys look for other options over there. And I would love to crack that code of what is going on there, that the fish can't just move out of there. They have to be around, right?
Right. I don't know if they may have not moved. They might still be in a deeper area or something.
Yeah.
And they just may not have moved in yet. It just whatever. For whatever reason, maybe the water levels got them all tweaked. I don't know.
I would think with high water levels that would, at least this time of year, that would cause the temperature to go down too, which maybe has something to do with it. Maybe that's not even right in the backwater, but you would think if some of it's snowmelt or even rain from up north, that's colder water that's pushing in and maybe has an effect on them too. But honestly, I don't know. We fished last year closer to Lake Pepin and ran into the same problem. I was there a week before. It was lights out. And then you and me went out there, and the water was up 4 or 5 feet, maybe not that much, maybe 3 feet, but all the grass I was fishing was not visible, and we just had to work to drag 2 bass out of there.
Yeah, typically with as the water is rising, you can just follow that water up, and you can catch fish.
Stay at that same depth.
You just just follow it all the way up. Fish can get super shallow. They just follow, because what's happening, and it's not just bass that do this. I think a lot of game fish do this, but is that water temperature goes into land that was, into land, water or land that was not touched by water. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's new opportunities, I guess, for things for fish to eat. I think that's part of what's going on there.
The only way to figure it out is to just keep going out there and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing this all summer.
Yeah, and I wish that we could have caught, some pike and some bass, but I don't look at it, no matter what, if you get out on the water, and even if it's for a short time, even if you get skunked, you should be learning something every time you go out.
Absolutely. And we really did not have a show worth putting up on our channel. We're pretty stingy with that kind of stuff, even with all the silliness that had happened that day.
Yeah.
Unless we were going to find some fish, and the trout were super cooperative, and it was a beautiful finish to my night anyway, because it was just like a lovely hike out there. So it ended pretty good. You can see that on our YouTube channel. It's our most recent video out there, so check it out. And coming up here fairly soon, we have a muskie video we're going to be dropping too, right?
Yes. In fact, I got to figure out when. Is that just you're placing added pressure on me? Is that a hey, bud?
I assumed.
Remember, don't forget.
I was under the impression it was done, I guess, but that's not the case.
It's nearly done. I need to add music to it, and but no, I could probably get it done in about 2 or 3 days. So I want to drop it during Muskie, like the Muskie opener in Minnesota. Do you know when that is?
I don't. I can look it up here real quick.
Okay, because I don't. I would say this is going to be one of our best feature episodes. We've got star power, we got Pete Mena in it, and we've got big fish power.
Yeah, and the other thing is maybe like one of our most memorable days on the water in the history of us fishing.
I think that's a great point.
What I'm saying?
Yeah. Those are great memories, dude.
Just having, one of the greatest muskie fishermen in the world as our 2-day guide, which was like such a great experience.
It is, isn't it? I think about that. I just can't take that for
I couldn't
granted.
thank him enough. And every time I would thank Pete, he would be like, you guys don't realize like how fun that really is for me. Like he just likes to be out there with people that he enjoys hanging out with,
I love Mena, dude. I love him.
He's just so much fun. He's so much fun,
love
that guy.
He's a great friend. I feel very fortunate.
So Muskie is June 1st. So I guess we got a little time before
Okay. So yeah, May's gonna be crazy. So that's a good point that you're saying I got to get on that, because I got some days. I don't go on another Wild West Bass Trail event until mid next week, so I've got a few days to.
And
to
we had
work
filmed
on that.
this. We had filmed this in Pete's Hayward, Wisconsin kind of home area in late fall of last year, I think it was. Must
Yeah.
have been.
Yep. Late fall around Hayward.
It
we
was
don't want to spill the.
spectacular.
Yeah, we don't want to spill the beans too much, but it's.
It's going to be worth watching.
Yeah, for sure. And so you said June 1st was Minnesota opener for muskie?
I'm looking at it right now,
Okay.
and your precious smallmouth
Yeah.
are 525. Isn't there a catch and release season before
There's
that?
gotta be, man. And you gotta. It's
Northeastern Minnesota, it's 511. So if you wanted to go up north, that's like Lake Superior.
What
There's
is
not-
that? Why are they doing that?
That's the
Can someone
boundary
tell
waters.
us in the if you're watching this
No.
on YouTube in the comments, like why?
No, we're gonna have we're having a DNR guy on here. I want to quiz somebody to all this,
Yes.
but it doesn't reference any. Oh wait, here we go. 511 statewide outside northeastern Minnesota smallmouth and largemouth catch and release.
Yes. Okay, so in 11 days.
You're 11 days away.
Okay. All right.
So that's
well,
awesome.
I gotta get all my bass stuff. So
And then you
here's
can-
what I gotta focus on. I gotta focus on getting the muskie feature episode done, and I also gotta get my bass gear ready.
Yes, and you've got to get ready.
All of my bass gear.
You can start eating delicious bass at the end of May.
That ain't my gig, man.
Is that anybody's gig?
I don't know,
who eats
dude. I'm
bass.
sure there are a few.
Whatever. All right, dude. Well, anyway, I think we better maybe get rolling. I should probably check on my girl. It's been suspiciously quiet.
Okay.
Although I'm hearing footsteps right now, but she's upstairs.
How long we been going for?
An hour, maybe hour and 10, maybe.
That's crazy, dude. It flew by. Can I just?
Actually, it maybe hasn't been that long. I'm looking at how long our call is.
Oh yeah, no. I don't think we've been on that long.
Should we
'Cause
keep on motoring?
I've got a few things I got to get off my chest here.
Okay, I may get interrupted by this girl, but
No problem.
Go
Then
ahead,
when
go ahead
if
and go
that
for it.
happens, if Phoebe interrupts us, then we wrap it up. How's that sound?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, she'd be awesome on here anyway.
Yeah,
so.
well, or she stays and she's a contributor to our podcast.
Currently, she's terrified of snakes, and we're going to work hard this summer to resolve that
Oh
problem.
yeah. So I told you I caught my. Well, I didn't catch it. I tried to catch it. I saw my first garter snake. I always mark these things down.
Right.
I think it was April 5th. April 5th or April 8th, I saw my first garter snake this year. It's always exciting.
It is
Always very
exciting.
exciting to hear your first frogs, too, of the year.
Oh, it's
You know,
great.
I love it.
That audio is the best.
Isn't it great?
Oh,
So there's two things that just I want to cover here before we wrap this up, and these are things that I think there's opportunities here for someone who, if they were an entrepreneur here, because
are you going to give away our golden ticket?
Oh, I know for sure that I'm not going to do any of this, you know. So unless you know,
You're just giving away free great ideas.
If you start thinking, okay, maybe this is something that I could do, like Pete, you're thinking, oh, maybe, wait a minute, I want to take this, just stop me and then we'll stop talking about it.
Okay.
All right, so one of the most frustrating things for me as an angler is I like buying
Your
a
friend
rod.
Pete?
No, well, that too, but seriously, dude, buying a rod, okay?
Right.
So, because let's say you find a rod that you're interested in checking out, okay? You like good rods, you found this rod, maybe it's an application for bass fishing, a certain action, you know, you've looked online, there it is, that should feel right, you know what I mean? That rod should be right. So you go, okay, I'm gonna go to Cabela's and find that rod. Well, you go to Cabela's and you don't find that rod, okay? They might have that brand, you know, that
Oh, yeah, but
model
they
of rod, but they
do
don't
not
have
have
that action.
They have 40 of them, of the most popular version out of 40 options for whatever particular rod you're looking for. They have 40 of the same exact of the bestseller. It's like a 6-foot medium action. You know, they're not
Right.
going to have a variety. They
Right.
have they bring in 6 cases of their best-selling rod out of that series.
That's right.
You know,
So it's one of the most frustrating things for me in fishing. It's getting a rod, buying a rod.
it's terrible.
Because here's what I do. I go online because I know that going to Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops most often is futile, you know?
Agreed.
And so I go online. I go, okay. I see what actions are available, and I just order rods online.
I do too.
And but dude, I can't even tell you how many times I get a rod in the mail, and then the actions kind of.
It's not perfect
It's
because
like,
you were imagining something else.
Yes.
And the other rub of that is, it's not like Amazon where you just get something in the mail and you slap a UPS thing on it and send her back. Rods are difficult to send because of their length. And sending them back, there's always a fee involved. I don't know of a situation where you can just ship back a rod free of charge. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's
Right.
frustrating. And
It's-
then you're waiting. And then you're, waited 3 days for it to get there. You hate it for 2 days. And now you're sending it off while you're ordering another one. And you might be 2 weeks away from when you figured out which rod you want before you realize it's not the rod you want. And it's a nightmare.
So what I would say, it's an absolute nightmare. You hit it right on the head. What I would say is there should be some enterprising individual that says, all right, I'm going to start a rod company. And it's going to be only available online, but my rods, and so this is what I do when I buy rods. And it's not necessarily the best rods that I can buy, and that's what kind of frustrates me, but it's the easiest way to buy a rod.
Right.
For instance, like I buy St. Croix rods, and the number one reason why I buy St. Croix rods is that in their what's the Mojo Bass line, they tell me what each specific rod, as far as for bass fishing, what that rod was designed for, what bass fishing technique. So I go, well, at least this is going to get me in the ball game. You know what I mean? It's going to get me in the what am I trying to say? It's going to get me in the ballpark, of what I'm looking for.
Not to disparage any other type of fishing, but bass fishing has a real diverse set of options when you're fishing for bass.
Right.
And it's
Right.
it's almost like having the right club.
Exactly. Same exact. That's a perfect analogy. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So perfect comparison. So it's incredible. So basically, I just settle, dude. I settle. I go, well, this is going to get me in the ballpark, this rod, and it's going to be good enough. There should be an enterprising individual that goes, okay, we got to do better. We're going to make a rod. We're going to only offer it online, but on our website where you buy this rod, we're going to have there's going to be a video for each rod that says this is, and there's some kind of a way that I haven't even fully figured it out, but
I don't know if there is. Unless you get your hands on it, I don't know if it's possible.
So my opinion is there's no good way to purchase a rod unless you go to the factory and you know what I'm saying? Like, where are you going to go and be able to handle every freaking rod of a certain model? You can't go to Cabela's or Bass Pro. They're always missing stuff.
No. But let me give you some advice here. Go small. And I've done this a handful of times over the last 3 years. I found rod makers, and you don't have to be a brilliant rod maker to make a good fishing rod.
Right.
The customizations are almost overwhelming, but I've won two or three guys' different houses. The most recent was Andy Wolfram, who got us our sturgeon ice fishing rod. Mm-hmm. And he's not just an ice fishing rod guy. He had a bedroom that was full of rods of every variety you could possibly imagine. You can look at the eyes you want, you could look at the blanks you want, you could look at
He
whatever
loves it.
action.
You can tell he loves doing it.
But it isn't just him. It's like if you
Yeah.
can find those guys that are in your neighborhood, it's worth an hour drive to spend a day with a guy saying, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and this is how I use it. And they may not even be bass guys.
Right.
But, and I had the same problem as you. I had rods literally sitting in my garage that I never used, that I paid a lot of money for, that when they showed up, they weren't the right rod for the job.
Dude.
And I set it on the shelf, and I'm like, eventually this one's going to come into play, and it just never does. You really have to just start getting rid of gear and getting things narrowed down to what makes sense that you're going to use,
But isn't it something that's what happens in fishing? Like
it's terrible.
This rod thing, it's so hard to buy a rod. It's so hard.
It's terrible.
It's one of the hardest things in fishing to buy a rod. like the right rod.
Right,
So
'cause if you go-
it's not, that has got to be perfected. But
It
I will
has to
say,
be.
I will say that you're absolutely right. It's great if you can find a custom rod maker to make your own rods. I mean, that's ideal,
Right.
to really get. But
And it's not easy, but it's worth checking into.
it's worth
you know?
checking into, agreed. But I also contend that there's got to be just a better way as far as for the general population of fishermen,
Right,
to buy a rod better.
And to use the golf analogy again, if you go to a golf shop, you're going to find the type of club that you want. You can have a shaft design, you can have like the tilt to your wedges. I'm not a golf expert, but I've been around it enough. The type of grips you want.
Yep.
They can whip that stuff up for you. It's not that different of a scenario. It's just golf's on a different budget, I suppose, as far as what people come in there and spend. But you can literally go in there and check out everything specifically tailored to you. Use it in a golf simulator. Not that you could do a fish simulator, but it's a hard thing.
Maybe.
It's a hard thing even to break down to a custom rod guy. You still almost have to show them the rod that you like and say, this is what I'm looking for, But
Right.
if you tell them the exact rod you think you want, they can get pretty close to it, or you can at least get a feel for some that they have there. But it really isn't an exact science. I think mostly what happens to me is I'll buy rods thinking it's going to be one thing and it's something else, and then I learn to adapt to the rod that I was forced to deal with.
And I think that sucks. It happens all the time. I do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, I do
You
too.
know?
And I really notice it in bass fishing.
Yeah.
Because that's
Big
where
time.
you're, like if you're pitching or casting or any of that stuff, it's,
Well,
it's a whole.
Yeah, it's also got to be, I imagine, the same in walleye fishing. Those guys need,
Yeah.
a certain action, the tip just right, to
Right.
feed, I mean,
Well,
so
even in pan fishing, I'm sure that's
Yeah.
a different deal. And I got lucky with my trout rod when I'm spinner fishing for trout. I gave up on trying to find the right rod, and I found and I just wanted something long and light that
Yeah.
wasn't whippy.
and
I
the
got
reason
lucky
for that, explain that, because that's important.
because I can get trout are so wary, especially in clear water. It's all about distance and accuracy. If you can throw a cast, 30, 40 yards, it's almost a guarantee when you lay in a perfect cast, you'll just know there's a fish there. And Shimano put out a trout rod, they called it. And I was like, oh, that's a 6.6 rod. It's a light rod, and it's two-piece, which is nice too, because if you're hiking in, that just comes in handy. And it turned into my perfect rod. I can't tell you, I've been using it for 6 years for every single trout I've caught that wasn't on a fly
Yeah.
rod. And I just got lucky, though. Like,
Yeah.
I looked for years leading up to that and never had the right rod. It's,
Yeah.
that is a good point. It's really, really frustrating. If you're listening and have advice on that one, we would love to hear it, because you probably could get to St. Croix factory. I don't know where that is. It's not too far from you, isn't that? Isn't that
Yeah,
Minnesota?
it's in Wisconsin. Is it
Oh,
Chippewa
right.
Falls, maybe?
Yeah, that is a little ways, I guess.
But it's and I like that. Really, there's not any rods. I mean, there's a. How do you go? Oh, well, I'm a Daiwa guy. I'm a Shimano
Right.
guy. It's like really
Yeah.
more than anything. For rod buying, it's like, okay, I got to get the action right, But the other thing I take into consideration is how durable is that thing, because.
Hey, I'm sorry, Phoebe just walked in.
Oh,
We have
hi,
a-
Phoebe.
We have a special guest. She can't hear you.
Okay.
But
Well,
she's
tell her
sitting on
hi.
the- Can you say hi to Greg?
Hi, Phoebe.
Go see if you can hear now.
Tell. Hey,
No, I think she can hear you now. Can you hear him, Phoebe? Can you say?
hi, Phoebe.
Can you hear that? You know
Hi.
who that is? You can say. Talk out loud.
Hi,
Who is
Phoebe.
that? It's Greg.
Hi, Phoebe.
Hi.
Can you
How
say?
you feeling?
Good.
Oh, you're feeling good. Good to hear it. I'm glad
What
you're
did you
feeling
ju-
better, Phoebe.
What did you just watch
Thanks.
What did you just watch on the show up there?
Ever after high.
Ever After High. That sounds amazing. I can't believe I missed it.
Unbelievable.
All right, I'm gonna put Phoebes down here because I'm
Okay. Well, I
cranking my
guess.
headphones on.
You think
So
it's
we're
time
just
to wrap
about-
it up?
In a little bit here.
Okay.
We're just about done here, hon. If you could give me 10 minutes, that'd be all right.
Bye, Phoebe.
There she goes. She can't hear you anyway.
Okay. So that's my beef with rod buying. I think that needs to be taken care of. That needs to be addressed. There needs to be some entrepreneurial spirit out there that will take this head on. I was saying, to me, durability is a huge aspect of rods too, because
Yeah.
like I look for that because rods are so, You think about it, dude. These guys spending like 200 plus. First of all, these guys are
crazy.
making a lot more money than I'm making, dude.
Oh my god.
I mean, if rods are so fragile, man, and you're dropping
Dude, I have
like
a
200 plus. I mean,
I have a $700 fly rod, and the high end of that rod line is like $3,000 to $4,000.
yeah. Well, they're
I mean, $700 is crazy.
dude,
but
$700 is insane.
it's insane, and I can't
I
find a
can't
rod
even.
that
I don't
great.
know if we can be friends anymore.
And but the good thing about the fly rods are, whenever you break a rod, there's no questions asked. You get another one. And that's a beautiful thing when you get to that high end of it, as long as the company stays in business, I guess. But that is a ridiculous amount. I did it as a donation to Trout Unlimited, was kind of part of how
All
I
right.
got that
Well,
one.
that's understandable.
It made it a little better. It kind of came with the donation. But, yeah, it was just like, and I can't find a cheap rod that is that good for some reason. Fly fishing, I think, is a little different beast.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, no, point taken. Did you have one more thing you wanted to cover here?
One last thing too, and here's another.
Oh my god! You know what? We might have to wrap it up right now.
Okay.
I think we've been rolling for a while. The reason being, I have to go get Jack at school, and he's going to be waiting outside in 20 minutes.
That's all right.
So.
Well, this topic we can save for later.
Jack is my 10-year-old, by the way. He's just getting done with school, so I got to go get him. So not to cut off the podcast here, but is there anything else you'd like to mention before we go?
No, I think we covered things well. You've got responsibilities, and I need to edit.
Perfect, and I don't think podcast 13 was very unlucky. I think it went quite well. So
I think it's been one of our better podcasts, and I'll say this too. If anybody noticed, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm drinking Michelob Ultra, and I'm just so you know, I didn't buy this. This is my father-in-law's beer.
Whatever. And I'm dying for a beer, but as a responsible parent that's heading to school, that's why I'm drinking water out of my Another Fishing Show mug. So I'm going to wrap things up. This is Pete from Another Fishing Podcast with my co-host Greg from Another Fishing Podcast. Remember to check out our YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. And folks, please don't leave your crawlers in the sun. This is Pete signing off. Thanks for listening.